Hi, everybody. Tom Eamon here with another Tuesdays with TFE, our show number 93 for July 3rd, the day before the 4th of July. We're live from the Beach Street Yacht Club, as usual, here in the lovely Marina District of San Francisco. Welcome. And as you saw maybe in that opening bit, I was trying to get a hold of Mike, and then he called in, and that messed our slides up a little bit. But we've got him. Mike, you're there, right? You can hear us?
Yes, Tom.
Okay,
how are you?
We've got him. I'll be back to you in a sec. We'll get this turkey on the road, and I'll bring your mic up. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Julia is not with us today because she's got the week off, but she is watching. She's connected with us by text, so if we have anything croutonic, she will be letting me know by text. So she is with us. Thank you, Julia. We want to say happy belated Canada Day, which is, of course, July 1st. That's one of our, they're on the right in the all the zinc oxide. I'm reliably informed by Martha Henderson. That is Alan McGarry, who is the chairman of the Canada's Cup Committee up at Royal Canadian Yacht Club. He is often with us on the show, and I didn't realize that was him until Martha pointed that out when I posted this picture on my Facebook page. But nonetheless, to all of our Canadian family and friends, happy Canada Day, belatedly, which was, of course, July 1st. Thank you to all of you who tuned in last week. We had one of our, we've had a lot of shows with 2,400 or more views, but not so fast. Usually it takes more than a couple days, or in this case, a week. And we had and increasingly, we see that St. Francis's live stream is also getting larger each week, and we appreciate very much your support. Today, on today's show, we're going to talk about the number of challengers. Are there only 3, or are there still a couple more waiting in the wings, including Mike Buckley from the second perspective, at least, USA team. He is, as you saw on the other end of our Skype, we'll bring him on in a moment. Mike Buckley of Team USA 21 is the name of their team. He tells me when we talk pre-show. We're also going to talk about the Tour de France à la voile. This is an event been going 40 years. This is actually the 41st edition. Cool event. And it doesn't seem to be at all well known outside of Europe, really outside of France. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And we'll get on here. But the websites, it's been a very busy week with a lot of news. And over here on the far right, that's the June 30th post, and then we'll work back chronologically to yesterday, I guess, to Monday's post. But, they wrapped up the Volvo here last weekend, and the thing was done a week ago Sunday, and then they had another import race, and they had a week of seminars and discussions, but they also had this frankly ridiculous, inane race between Pete Burling and Blair Tuke, neither of which won the Triple Crown. Unfortunately, we were cheering for them, and they put a video up, and I ran it and kind of wrapped up the race. But go look at the website. Also, the Happy Canada Day post. I'm going to show you this Olympics, how long before World Sailing proposes this is an Olympic event. We'll show you that in a minute, that video, which is synchronized windsurfing. Kind of cool. I mean, it's visually cool, but I don't think it's Olympic sailing. But we'll see what you think. And then, of course, we broke the news. We didn't break the news. We told you about the rumored news months ago that they were considering using IMOCA 60s in the next, it's probably not going to be the Volvo Ocean Race. We'll talk about that as well. But look at that story because it's interesting. And then yesterday, the entry line deadline had passed over the weekend, and the Fifth Beatle, who's one of our regular contributors, wrote a long and good story, detailed story about what's going on in the Cup, and do have a look at that over on the website. And while you're there, we hope you'd become a patron, join Patreon, and give us $1 a month or more. We just had a couple more people sign up this week. Get pretty good chunks, pretty good numbers. Thank you very much, Packy Davis. Thank you to others of you who have indeed signed up as patrons. That's how we do this. We are going to have some advertising. We are going to have some sponsors. But after a year, we wanted to get first the eyeballs up, and then we'll start to work to monetize the site because it's going like gangbusters, frankly, and both viewership of the website as well as our live videos. These live videos are not easy. It's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery, but it's also not easy. It's fun. And without Julie here, I feel a little, naked, but I know she is watching from afar. Okay, this Olympic story that we ran here, Olympics, how long before World Sailing proposes this as an Olympic event? That is a judged event, what that they're calling an expression event. We think that's happening. This is actively being considered in the halls, and not the halls so much, but in the very closed doors, behind the closed doors of World Sailing's executive committee, what's now called the board. And I want you to look at this video because it is I think it's visually cool. It was taped by a couple of the top French windsurfers in Western Sahara, in an area that's popular for board sailing and kiting for that matter. But have a look and see what you think if this is a potential future Olympic event. Cool, eh? You know, I think it's okay. Now, Major Hall, when I posted that video earlier, a couple to 3 days ago, Major Hall, who was our Olympic coach, our first windsurfing coach back in 1984, great sailor, I raced against him as a junior and then as a young adult in sunfish and lasers and other classes. In fact, Major crewed for me when we won the Championship of Champions back in the prehistoric era in 1976. But Major was our windsurfing coach in 1984, and he makes the point that in 1984, the first Olympics for board sailing, the Olympic higher-ups turned down a windsurfer freestyle event because they said there were already too many subjective judging events, that means in the Olympics, gymnastics and diving and tell me what. It was eventually run as an exhibition event, that is windsurfing, in Santa Barbara. And then when they used the Wind Glider, I think was the name of the board, that was used in the 84 Olympics as the official medal event. So we actually had two board sailing events, the windsurfer because it was California, it was Hoyle Schweitzer, that was up in Santa Barbara. And then we had the official medal event in Long Beach, and that was in the Wind Glider. But Major points out it was discussed back in 84 and then it was dropped from any future consideration how times have changed. And Major, this is a picture, Major, if you're watching, he often watches the show, this is a picture of Major and Susan Hall, his wife, who have been married 35 years this year. This is a photo that one of their kids posted, and they're living down in Florida, and a dear friend from many, many years. Congratulations to Major and Susan. Thanks for that comment, that quote. Also, in the last couple of days, apropos World Sailing and their discussion about doing now not only kiting, but judged events. And by the way, as I mentioned a week ago, this offshore event is still under major consideration. I've had a couple private discussions with senior, serious people in World Sailing, including perhaps the most senior serious offshore delegate, committee chair. And this offshore event for Paris, which means Marseille 2024, is still very much in the cards. And they've also just announced a World Sailing Trust. They've had for years, there was a Youth Sailing Trust, but now there's a World Sailing Trust that I don't know how they're going to pay for it, where they're going to raise the money, if it's going to be privately funded. But there are, I think, 5 trustees, all from Europe. 4 of the 5 are from the UK, from Great Britain. Teresa Zabel is the only non-Brit. She's from Spain, the Olympic gold medalist, maybe twice, at least once in the 470. Good gal. And, of course, on that board as a trustee is Andy Hunt, the CEO of World Sailing, and he would have approved this or written this, having taken the helm of the International Federation in early 2016. This is the bios of the people that are on this World Sailing Trust. And, it used to be that the president, the elected president, had the helm, and the CEO was the COO, or the Secretary General was the tactician, while the helmsman, the president, the elected president, in this case, Kim Andersen from Denmark. But no, he calls himself the CEO and has taken the helm of the International Federation a couple years ago. He's not a sailor. He's a rugby guy who came in from the UK. And they still have, I'm reliably informed again this week, that World Sailing has enormous financial problems. And we'll see how that's going. World Sailing is inventing classes for the Olympics. And I don't know if they want a light, single-handed foiler. How could you do any better than the Wasp? It's an American boat, now active all over the world, including in Europe. It's sort of a one-design, smaller, lighter, less expensive moth, foiling moth, which is an open class, a box rule, and so on. But there were fully 63 entries. 63 entries at the Europeans that just wrapped up, one by a Norwegian gentleman. He was actually third overall because there was an Aussie and a Kiwi who I think were first, second, but they don't count in the European standings. But what a great boat. 63 of those things. It's only been around for a couple, 3 years, I think. And again, World Sailing, in my humble opinion, not so humble opinion, should be going to established classes that have an active, strong class association run by the owners, widely distributed around the world, not inventing new classes out of whole cloth, or so I think. I mean, just look at this thing. What a beautiful boat. Of course, you know where that is. That's Lake Garda, one of the most amazing places in the world to sail. Okay, let's take a pause for the cause here before we go to Mike Buckley and talk America's Cup. We've got a lot of people on. Just say hi to all of our friends. Richard Gladwell is watching. Richard's done some great writing. Richard's the New Zealand editor of Sail-World, Sail-World, as most of you will know. And he covers the sport as well, and in more depth than I do, frankly, and than anybody else. If you want to read press releases, you can go to Scuttlebutt. If you want to read you can go to some other websites for some of the other things. But Richard writes well and in depth and authoritatively, and you should be watching him at sail-worlds.com. Gary Salvo. Hello, Gary, and a bunch of other people there. David James is watching the sausage making. Well, normally you don't see that because when Mike called in, it switched the screen over to Skype. Normally I get him on before we go to air, but we couldn't find him there for a moment, but thanks for calling in, Mike. Stingray from up in Seattle sent me a couple videos just before airtime, and I've managed to squeeze them in, Stingray, who's a senior serious software engineer at Boeing. J. Michael Kiss, hello, Mike from Newport, Rhode Island. Jay Hanfield, hello from James Taylor Concert at Tanglewood. That's outside Boston, so somebody else. Paul Clark from North Vancouver in BC, thank you. Sandeep Sander, who we've had on the show in the past week or two, from Tivoli Gardens, the nice park, in a kind of in a small way, the central park of Copenhagen. Beautiful place. I hope it's a nice day. Well, it's evening there now. It's, 10:20, so you probably had a cocktail or two there, right, Sandy? Who's David James asking, where in the Tivoli? Well, you can't get too far. It's a beautiful place. The food court, You guys. And Sandy, very proud of you and pleased to all of our sailing illustrators who've contributed to Magnus Hegaard, the young Danish opti sailor who's only got, 20% lung capacity, and they've raised now, 97 sponsors, contributors. They've raised well over 10,000 US, which is enough to get him to the Opti Worlds, and we're going to do some more of that. And if you know of somebody, a youngster or not so young, who is challenged in some way and needs some funding to help get to an event, I mean physically or mentally challenged, and not just any run-of-the-mill sailor, but we'd like to help, and we appreciate Sandeep Sander calling it to our attention. Julia is watching. I'm sure she would. Richard Levine, hi Richard. Jack Bush, as always, hi Jack. Thank you for some of your very good comments over the last week online. Bill Wingrove watching from Tampa. Thunderstorms and all. Stuart Sturley, who is the very fine PR manager. He used to be a journalist and now is the communications director for New York Yacht Club. And all clubs should be so lucky to have someone as strong and talented as Stu Sturley. And I just can't say enough about the job that New York does compared to a few other clubs we could talk about, Julia, in the PR department. Phil Friedman, San Diego, I assume. David James saying, why not the Moth? Good question. Chris Bretschker, who's one of our founding members here of this website. Britton Ward in Annapolis. Britton, a principal at Far Yacht Design, one of the smart, cool guys in the sport. Sorry about that tragedy, that terrible, horrific incident shooting at your Capital Gazette, Britt, there in Annapolis. I was criticized by some for talking about that, but I think when Scheiße, as the Germans would say, when horrible things happen in a sailing center, and Annapolis is certainly one of the sailing centers in the U.S., if not the world, one of the top sailing centers. Clancy Solway, watching from Dana Point. Jean-Pierre Keekins is in Newport, Belgium. He resides in Montreal. I've been talking with Jean-Pierre this morning, and he's got a youth week-long regatta. Jean-Pierre has a Facebook page that talks about youth sailing, particularly the Opti, the laser radial, and it's well worth looking him up. Jean-Pierre Keekins on Facebook. And his it's really a blog on Facebook about youth sailing, junior sailing. Very thoughtful, clever, well-connected guy. From Montreal, but he's, I believe, Belgian originally, from Belgium, and he's there now. Jack Everett, hello to you, Jack. Nice picture of you with wearing the Super 12 sweatshirt as you were going past, the Fastnet Rock. Gerard Sheridan, hi Gerard, long time. Matthew Sanders, hi from the waters just off Bar Harbor, Maine. Man, our sport is fantastic. You look at all these nice places. Paul Henderson's fond of saying that these clubs that we all belong to, we're so lucky to have the real estate, the water real estate. And David Periga, who's up in Wisconsin at Lake Geneva or Pewaukee, maybe Pewaukee. And even the lakes of the upper Midwest where I grew up in Wisconsin, Minnesota, just fabulous places to sail. I'm not sure if most people realize the great majority of the sailing in the world goes on small lakes, rivers, reservoirs, and not just coastal racing like we have here in San Francisco. Santiago Sampaio, David James, not only the moths, I guess, have a very long waiting list. Moths, I think he meant, not months. It was an autocorrect. Have a very long waiting list, about 2 years for the Exocet, but also the bigger budget and short team, the faster you'll be. The Moth is a very professional box rule. Getting the best boat, as Santiago Sampaio says, is tough and it's expensive. Much better, he says, a one design of some sort, meaning like the Wasp or the one or two others that are coming to fruition, have come to fruition. Matthew Gallagher, hi Matthew. Phil Friedman says, sailed at Club FJ with my daughter out of Lido Island Yacht Club in Newport, meaning Newport Harbor, Newport Beach, California. Tom O'Keefe, hi to you. Christian, now here's an interesting thing. Christian Lercha. Sandeep Sander taught me how to pronounce your name, Christian. Sorry, Lercha. Christian has just been named the managing director of KDY, of the Royal Danish Yacht Club. Is that right? Royal Danish Yacht Club? Not the Secretary General of the Federation. I think the Royal Danish Yacht Club, for so I'm told by Sandy. Congratulations, Christian. That's a great post. You're the former managing director, is a good friend of ours, is often on here. And what a great yacht club, KDY, the Royal Danish Yacht Club. Betsy Altman is on from beautiful Chicago, as she often is. Hi, Betsy. Norman Valente Jr., greetings from steamy New Orleans. It is a steamiest in the central part of the country. In fact, up where Julie is, up in wine country north of San Francisco, I'll bet you it's pretty bloody hot, too, 90 or maybe 100. Jack Everett is 10 miles offshore of Ireland, live with us on this over halfway. Did you see the picture of at Fastnet? Yes, we did, Jack. Thank you very much, Sandy Sander. Okay, so I got that. Christian is the new CEO of the Danish Sailing Federation, the Sailing Association. Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying that, Sandy. Congratulations to Christian Lerche, Lerche. Great. What a great crowd again here. As usual, let's get on with the show and talk about the 1-year anniversary. Was just celebrated. As you know, we ran a story about it just last week. The 2017 Cup, the 1-year anniversary party at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. Enjoy this brief videotape, at least of the lead-in. They didn't stay on when the partying, I'm sure, got Kiwi-esque or sailing-esque. But have a look at this.
So this is the key that unlocks the key, that unlocks the safe, that unlocks the America's Cup. And that's what we're about to do for the party this afternoon. Oh, easy. Wait. Oh, the reckon should go. Where's the rest?
We're into it. Boats are being designed, boats will start being built. We absolutely got to be on point at Emirates Team New Zealand. And all those things that we've learned and we've ingrained in ourselves, and the culture that's grown, that we inherited and hopefully enhanced and taken on, stays very much, and we keep our feet firmly on the ground, and we stay true to our values and who we are and what we believe. And let's hope that in March 2021 that let's have another one saying, you know what, how are we going to do the next one? Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Okay, turn the camera off and kick back in Kiwi style at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron in Auckland, obviously. Well, the big news of the week was the announcement by the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron that there are indeed, as we've long not only surmised but known, that there are 3 challengers for the 2021 America's Cup. 3 official challengers so far. Now, the challenge period closed on June 30th. However, you can still challenge, provided you pay a late fee of an additional $1 million, and you can challenge for another, 5 or 6 months until the end of November. Now, one of the, if not one of, perhaps the top likely team, or we hope, will make it, is a second American team. And on the other end of my Skype is Mr. Mike Buckley, as you saw when we were getting set up. And let me switch over to Skype, and hopefully we still have Mike here. There he is. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Okay, let me get your audio adjusted. You're in New York City?
Yes, sir.
And just back from Europe, where you were racing in what, the Melgus, what?
Yeah, the Melgus 24 Italian Championship.
So this was the national championship in Italy. Was that also at Lake Garda?
It was, yes, in Torbole.
Beautiful. It is so nice that we were talking earlier this morning about what a nice place it is to sail. So tell us, I've got your slides. Do you want to talk through these first 5 slides? How do you want to update us on your USA 21, Team USA 21?
Yeah, I mean it's up to you. Like I said, we're still in fundraising mode. We're not quite there yet. We have a great group of investors that have been with us for about the last 4 months. But I I think, as everyone knows, the America's Cup is a pretty daunting financial endeavor, and we're actively looking to gain a few more key investors or donors. But I think we have a pretty neat and pretty unique story that resonates with people, and hopefully we're not too far off.
You've been the tactician with Taylor Canfield, and you've had a big string of successes. I mean, you won Congressional Cup, you won the Gold Cup in Bermuda. How long have you been sailing with Taylor, and what's his role going to be if you get this up and running?
Well, Taylor and I, first and foremost, are great friends, and I sailed with him as his tactician when he's a few years younger than I am. I sailed with him, I don't know, I want to say 8 years ago in a match race. He may have still been in college. We got our butts kicked pretty good, but we started a great friendship then that's carried on for a long time. We were lucky enough to sail in the Con Cup. He's won it himself 3 other times with a different team, and our goal this year was to try to win it with a fully American team, to kind of see if we could, prove our own model that there is enough talent in America to compete at the top level. We had a small budget and not a lot of time. We did a 2-day training session 3 weeks before with a totally new team. Our goal was to get better every day.
This was before Congressional Cup. Now you're talking about.
Yep, this was before the Con Cup. Yep.
And you had an all-American team.
Correct.
And are you differentiating yourselves from New York Yacht Club's team, which is not all-American, but they will be moving here to qualify for to comply with the nationality rule?
Yeah, I don't think we're certainly not trying to going out of our way to differentiate ourselves from New York Yacht Club's team. We have a lot of respect for them, but I kind of explained that we're selling a bit of a different product. The way that they're doing it works for them, and they have great sailors, great minds, great owners behind their group, and obviously
a great billionaires.
Right, correct. We had originally pitched the New York Yacht Club with our idea. Taylor and I did about 8 months ago, and they decided to go down a different road, which we support their decision. But yeah, our initiative is an all-American approach, and that includes American technology, American athletes, made in America. And hopefully that puts American sailing kind of back on the map, because for too long we feel that American sailing hasn't really been part of the America's Cup. It's since Dennis Conner and Bill Koch and those guys, there's been a pretty big gap with kind of what we consider true American sailing.
Let's go look at the slides. You sent me the first 5 slides of your pitch, your current presentation, and let's see if I can go back and find them now. There we go. And bloody hell. Now why can't my slides show up? This is always a challenge. Get my slides working. I better get them working. There's another video, but I got to get my hair. Hang on. We'll go down here. One way or another, we'll make this work. There we go. We're talking with Mike Buckley, who is, Mike, what's your title with the team?
We're not really focused on titles. I've kind of, said president, but you're
the CEO. You're running the show right now.
I've kind of been leading it. We also have some other great minds involved. Robbie Doyle has been working alongside me as well, and Mark Mendelblatt, to name a few. So Our focus is, again, we're kind of leveraging the underdog approach and the miracle on ice approach, if you will. And we're less focused on titles and a huge budget and things like that, and trying to put our money where our mouth is, if you will.
So for, you call it America's Team, for Team USA 21, you told me before we went to air that you got permission from the U.S. Olympic Committee to use Team USA as long as you tack the 21 on, right? Of course, that refers to 2021.
Right. We discussed it and made sure that we weren't, in any sort of copyright or trademark infringement. We don't have in order to just be Team USA, you need to go through quite a lengthy contractual period with them in order to use the name itself.
So take us through the pitch.
Yeah, obviously the one of the hardest things about the America's Cup is fundraising, and the budgets are incredible, it's really important to have investors or donors that help you get off the ground. It really you can't enter. You don't get very far if you don't have the finances behind you.
What kind of a budget are you talking about? I'm going to switch slides. Tell me if you want me to stay on the slide.
Yeah, no. Our goal budget is $100 million, and we think we could do it for a fair bit less, because our plan is to purchase a design package from the Defender, which saves us, a huge amount of money on R&D. I think we all know that you could spend as much money as you have. You could raise $200 million and you could probably spend every cent of it wisely. But that's not going to be, that's not on the table for us. We don't have the time to spend that kind of money. We're pressed on time. And we're all very hungry. Everybody that will be on our team, from designers to trainers to athletes to marketing personnel, you name it. If they're not hungry, they're not on our team. And our team isn't going to be about a huge budget. It's going to be about a group of Americans coming together and try to create a winning culture here in America in the sailing world.
So here's your Congressional Cup winning team this year in, what was it, April, I guess. And yep. Taylor Canfield, who is from the USVI on the left, clearly a great sailor. You've been serving as his tactician for years, and the rest of your gang. But the backers, the key thing is it's hard to get that first, $10 million? Is that what you're looking for? Do you think you've got that much secured? Because that's the tough part.
Yeah, we have more than that secured, and we've got a great group of initial investors. We had we started out with a few $100,000, and then our second investor was committed $10 million, and then another group came on. But what we're looking for another group to put up another $10 million. Because that gives us enough money to make it through the next 2 years. We're have some fantastic dialogue with some big corporations right now that we think will land. But unfortunately, in the corporate sponsor world, that money usually doesn't come around till the end. So you can't really, here in America, you can't really rely on the corporate dollars until the end. They want to make sure you can get to the race before they write checks.
And you imagine this being all American sailors, engineers, backers. You don't imagine any non-American team members?
Yeah. No, I mean, our whole story is based on, to me, it's more than just sailing. It's the American dream. That's why we're doing this. Taylor obviously grew up in the Virgin Islands, but he was born in New York. We're both we both come from very humble backgrounds, the American dream is something that has always inspired me. Every time I drive in and out of New York City, I think about it, and that's what our initiative is.
How about in and out of San Francisco? This is a pretty nice shot of a bridge here in San Francisco. By the way, I'm going to come back to you on Skype, but I want to point out to our dear viewers that you probably saw in the ETNZ video that I ran a minute ago, the cup was only this tall. And originally, as you probably know, the cup was only that tall, and the 2 additional bases, which you would be familiar with, were added in 1958 and 1995 from memory for additional engraving space. Team New Zealand has apparently, as the trustee now, have decided to take those 2 bases off and try to rationalize all the engraving that's gone on. They, in some statement somewhere, said that both the Swiss, Alinghi, and we, meaning Golden Gate Yacht Club, when we held the trophy, had used bigger font. That is not true. When we got the trophy and saw that Alinghi had used bigger than the traditional font, we took a decision to go back to the smaller font, and I don't know what has happened, but there wasn't enough space after the 2013 win and now the 2017 win by the Kiwis. That would have filled up the rest of that second base. So that's why you only saw this much of the cup, because they're doing something. I think it's history. I think people should see that the former trustee, meaning Alinghi Yacht Club, did that. But I digress, and I just wanted to point that out. I would have left it and then said, well, sorry, it's too big, and we're going to add another base. The typeface, the font was too big, but that's the way it was. That's how it was engraved. It's part of the history. And they're going to change that. They're going to go, I don't know. I don't get it. Okay, let's see if I can find Mike here, back here someplace there we go, on the Skype. Well, it's interesting. I hope you make it. I hope that you find the backers. I think it'll be good for not only the Cup to have a 4th challenger, it'll be great for sailing in the U.S. if there are 2 challengers in addition to the very well-funded, very well-organized New York Yacht Club Challenge. You don't need me to tell you it's a tough uphill battle. I've done 12 of these now, all of them since 1980 in one capacity or another, and I hope to see you do it, and I've pledged my support to help you try to do it if you can. What do you think, besides the money, what other challenges? What about the fact that these other teams are pretty far down the road, at least relatively speaking?
Well, obviously our first challenge is money, and our second challenge is time. What I mentioned to you over the phone earlier is that if you're not going to be able to purchase a design package, you're probably too late to the game, because time is certainly not on your side. But if you're able to get in on to kind of compare last Cup, a Team Japan Oracle situation. All of a sudden they're pretty much up and running.
Meaning Team Japan got a design package and more from Oracle Team USA last time. They were really funded and backed in many ways. And we know, and you've been reassured by Grant Dalton and Emirates Team New Zealand that they will provide the design package from their preliminary design package anyway to late comers. Is that right?
I can't fully get into exactly what Grant and I have talked about, but certainly we've discussed. I have no idea what he has spoken to any other teams about. I can only speak of what he and I have discussed. But there's an opportunity to potentially get involved with a design package. As has been the case in many America's Cups in the past.
Great. Good. Anything else? Anything you want to add or subtract?
I think they want to see us succeed. I think that we fit a similar mold to them. They've obviously played the underdog card in the past, and they're a team that's made up of, for the most part, New Zealand nationals. I think pretty much everyone but one. And so I think that they see some similarities in what we're trying to do, and we certainly appreciate all the help that they've given us so far.
Great, good. Okay, Mike Buckley has been our guest here via Skype from New York City. Mike is heading up the potential second American USA 21, Team USA 21, America's Cup team, and best wishes. It's a tough road to hoe, but we certainly hope it comes to fruition.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
Okay, all the best.
All right, have a great day.
Have a happy 4th. Have a good day. Hope you get a break tomorrow. How warm is it in New York?
It's about 100.
It's warm all over the country.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, many thanks. Ciao.
Hey,
Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, now let's see. I want to play this video. Stingray sent it to me just before airtime. I didn't get to put it into the slides, but while we're here, let's see if we can play this full screen. And it is the announce video by Sir Ben Ainsley's team that they have in fact challenged. And thanks, Stingray, for sending it.
1851, the year of the Great Exhibition, the year we challenged America to sail around the Isle of Wight, the year the upstarts won and Britannia no longer ruled the waves. The New Yorker's yacht was called America, giving the cup its name. The new world triumphed over the old, and that cup hasn't seen our shores for 167 years. Not that we didn't try. We challenged many times, harnessing the forces of nature, pushing ourselves to the limits and beyond. But the New Yorkers were unbeatable.
The British challenger for the America's Cup, Sovereign, around the 5th mark. The Constellation leads her British rival by 5 minutes. Even the most optimistic Britisher was ready to pull in his sails.
And then the Aussies sailed along and opened the floodgates. Next it was San Diego, and then the Kiwis, the San Franciscans and the Swiss. What did these giants have in common? The resources to innovate. Technology is supreme in this, the Formula One of sailing. There was the winged keel, the plastic fantastic, and, like a bird on the wing, the foiling catamaran, flying above the water, virtually frictionless and faster than the wind that carries it. Fitted with sensors, connected, analysed, tweaked to perfection. Designed and crafted by the people who made spacecraft and aeroplanes. And then there's the skill of the heroes who sail them. Cranking, pulling, tacking, spinning the helm, first at one side, then the other, lest they end up in the water rather than on it. So what will it take to bring the old mug back home? Only the best designers, engineers, boat builders and know-how the world has to offer. With the funding and tenacity to see a winning strategy through until the job is done. And then there's Ben. Sir Ben Ainsley, the most successful Olympic sailor in history. He has the taste for victory and the team that can help us achieve it. All we have to do is design, build and sail the fastest 75-foot carbon fibre monohull in the world. And then win a few races on it. Let's bring the America's Cup back home where it belongs.
Well, that is the first time I've played a video right off of YouTube, and it worked. Thanks again, Stingray, for sending that along. Now, I'll see if I can find my slides here. And that's the last slide from Mike Buckley, and I sincerely hope they will make it. I better turn off that YouTube video now. I guess there's another YouTube playing. Let's get rid of that somehow. Bloody hell. Julia, where are you when I need you? It's a lot easier when you're here. But let's go back now. So that shows what you can do when you've got some money, right? Nice video. The audio was they need to work on the audio a bit, but that's another issue. So yesterday we posted the story the fifth Beatle wrote, and then he called me and I gave him this quote at the end. What if there are only 4 teams? What if Mike doesn't make it? What if the Sardinian team and the Norwegian team, which frankly we haven't heard anything from. Mike, I think, is out there working really hard and has a chance to make it. I hope he does. Second American team. But I said to the fifth Beatle, who wrote our big story yesterday, all 4 teams will be well-funded and well-led. And Sir Ben has learned from his mistakes made last time, has new management, and a war chest provided by this guy Jim Ratcliffe, who is the wealthiest man in the UK. A lot of people are not too happy about him and the sponsorship because he's I go off the quote here, but I'll come back to that. He's an energy entrepreneur, and some of the things they're doing, some people don't agree with. And then I went on to say that New York Yacht Club is hungry and clear-eyed, having been out of the Cup for 17 years, and now with the backing of at least 3 billionaires. Their sailing team announced yesterday is experienced and deep, and it is. It's a great lineup that they put together, and led, of course, by one of the best, if not the best, current sailors in the U.S. And they're good. Terry Hutchinson, T. Hutch from Annapolis. Mr. Bertelli is back, having sat out the last Cup after a dispute with Russell over the rules. So he challenged but then didn't follow through. He, that is Mr. Bertelli, appears to be more committed than ever to winning. It's his 6th America's Cup challenge since 1980, which puts him ahead of Sir Thomas Lipton and his 5 challenges at the turn of the last century and up to the J-boat era. Now, Mr. Bertelli does not want to become the only challenger to lose a record 6 times. Now, Mr. Bertelli didn't lose last time. He challenged and then withdrew, so that's a bit unfair. And then, of course, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron's team, Emirates Team New Zealand, will be formidable. A new defender has always won their first defense, except 1987, when the Royal Perth Yacht Club and Alan Bond in Australia too did not successfully defend. They won in 83, and they did not successfully defend, as you all know, in 1987. Dennis Conner won, brought the Cup back to the States in that fantastic event, widely regarded as the best America's Cup event in the modern era. Certainly in my experience. I enjoyed that very much. I enjoyed winning a few of them too, but I was with New York's team in 87, and we were 5th. Didn't even make it to the semifinals. But on the strength, as I said here in this last sentence, there were fully 13 challengers, and there were 4 defenders, of which only 2 were really competent and competitive. So there was just such the balance of power between the challengers and the defenders. It was, get my both hands on the screen here. It was much stronger on the challenger side. Any of the top 5, maybe even 6 teams, or at least 4, could have won. So what about this new boat that we've all been hearing about, seeing? That's the Team New Zealand still of this boat that nobody's quite sure what to call it other than an AC-75, a foiling monohull. And how well this is going to work is anybody's guess, but there's a lot of very smart people working on it. You saw the slides we ran last week of Ben Ainsley's new surrogate, the test boat. It's a Quant 28, a 28-footer, and that's at his team base in, not Plymouth, I called it Plymouth. It's in Portsmouth in the southeast corner, south coast of the UK, where Ben has his base. And they have this surrogate, and you can see these big dangly down foils. That's what it's going to look like. Now, there's some things on here which are protectors, so people walking around the yard don't hit them and damage them or damage themselves, and same on the rudder. And we had these photos from a friend. Others had them as well, that he took from, I guess, an iPhone or a phone cam from his bedroom. I talked to him. That was the boat being splashed late the week before last. for load testing, presumably at the dock. And then we did have this world exclusive photo, which a lot of people have just grabbed, but that's okay. We had it first from a friend of ours in the Netherlands who sent it along to us, and the boat was towed a week ago Friday out off the in the bay there. But we're not aware that it has sailed. If somebody is aware that it sailed, please tell us. We'd love to know. But so far as we know, they load tested it, mucked about on the water, and then it went back in the shed. Maybe they're on vacation, but I rather doubt it. Maybe they're doing some modifications because something didn't quite work out the way they expected. Emirates Team New Zealand is supposed to be building a surrogate boat, a 38-footer. The rule is, I couldn't quite remember, but it's 12 meters, which is 39.37 inches. So you can build up to a 39-footer and not break the rules in the protocol about building a surrogate boat that's too big, because to give effect to the rule that you can only build two boats, two of these new AC 75s, a 75-footer, you have to have a rule that says you can't build something that looks like it and acts like it and walks like it, but is not, officially an AC 75. Otherwise, there's no point in having the rule. So let's go look at our list of people again. We haven't checked this in a few minutes, and see what your comments and questions are. And by the way, if you have any questions for Mike Buckley, I'm sorry he's gone. I didn't want to hold him too long, but if you have any questions, pop them on here, and he'll read them. I'll get them to you. Yeah, Julia or somebody has asked the question, what happened to the bases of the cup? I think I explained that. Hello, Aaron, Adam Goldwater. Aaron watches from the Gold Coast of Australia normally. So, again, our very extensive worldwide audience. Welcome to you, Aaron Goldwater. You are aware there is no bottom to the A cup. Yes, it is a bottomless. It's not, strictly speaking, not true now, because we added that carbon base when we won it in 2010, and that closed off the bottom. But it had been passed through before. We'll see what the Kiwis come back with if they change that base. Wouldn't surprise. Bernie Wilson, hello to you, the esteemed Associated Press writer down in San Diego. Matt Sanders, would love to know your thoughts on the report that RNZ is having sections of the cup remade to make the size of the text more. Well, I think I commented on that, Matthew. Tom O'Keefe, Brian Reiser, Mason Sheehan. Hi, guys. Lloyd Gilmore, another guy, Kiwi, who's been very involved in raising money for the cup. Lloyd, I'm sure you're talking to Mike Buckley. Lloyd's a very clever marketer. Raised a lot of money for Oracle Team USA last time, was helping me with the Super 12s, which we have parked, but it's still on the back burner. Matthew Sanders, that's probably why sections of the cup are missing in that video. Yes, these are all comments. Santiago Sampaio, it is indeed, there is a video on Live, Sail, Die about it. Yes, Don Lunabos, hi Don. Brian Reiser, Don's up in wine country. Julia, he's not too far from you. He's over in Sonoma, and you're in Napa. Mark Wharton Reed, hi Mark. Another Bay Area denizen. Tom Fishbeck, Rick Hayes, Tavi Kiss, what a name. I don't remember Tavi. We had another Kiss at the top of the show. Is this a spouse or a brother or a sister? Or George Pete, hi George. Jack Jennings, Kent Pulliman, Dave Court. Dave Court says there is a bottom in the cup, or was when Oracle won in Valencia. Yes. Watch the drink champagne from it. Well, that was the wooden base. That we replaced the wooden base with the carbon round base. But originally, as you probably all know, the cup, when New York, that first section of the silver ewer, Victorian pitcher ewer, did not have a bottom. And then New York added the base in 58, and then the Kiwis added the base in 95. It was still, there was a bolt that held all that together, and it was still bottomless. So until they put that wood base on, I guess they put the wood base on concurrent with that second round section. Excuse me. Okay. Paul Clark, Stingray, buying a starter design package from ETNZ will be an excellent jump start. Please, guys, help USA 21 get onto the water. That's our friend Stingray. Obviously, that is a pseudonym, and he's up in Seattle. You should get involved with them, Stingray. Santiago Sampaio, I'm not British, I've got goosebumps. So you like that video. That's a good video, isn't it? I like that video too. Don Lunabos, the best engineering will win. Well, the best management usually wins. And as Dennis Conner won the Cup without always raising the most amount of money, but he spent it wisely, judiciously. Julia is here in spirit. She says, yes, indeed. It must be hot up there too, Julia. Justin Palm, a Detroit boy living in Orange County now. Hi, Justin. Bjorn Vestergaard, and Chris Watts. Welcome to all of you. We appreciate your coming on. Let's carry on here with the show. And speaking of foiling monohulls, or at least semi-foiling monohulls, this is an IMOCA 60. And it was announced in The Hague, Den Haag, a few days ago at the end of the Volvo Ocean Race, that IMOCA 60s would be used for the next, and they didn't call it the Volvo Ocean Race, they called it the Fucker Tower, the FCRTWR. You know what that stands for? Okay, I made that up. But that's what they called it in their press release. That is the fully crewed round-the-world race. The Fucker Tower. That's what they're calling it until it's clear who the next sponsor. I understand Volvo might come back, or at least Volvo Cars, which is owned by the Chinese company, but not necessarily. And nonetheless, it was announced by Johan Salén, who is the co-president and the new owner, along with his business partner in Sweden. He's Swedish. And they have bought the race from Volvo. They are, by all accounts, very savvy gentlemen. They've run teams. They've helped run the event this last go-around because they took over kind of midstream when the British Mark Turner stepped down. And this is the announcement in The Hague the other day that they are going to, in fact, use IMOCA 60s. And there's some key designers, skippers, and other people at that forum. And they look second from the left over here. You know who that is? I don't have any. I don't have a studio. So that is one of the most famous designers in the world. That is Juan Kuyum-Jan, and he was there and has been involved in the Volvo and will be again, it looks like, the IMOCA 60s. That's what the thing looks like. That was the design. They said it's got a swing keel, but it also has these foils. Now, that doesn't lift the boat up completely out of the water, but the leeward foil, the wind blowing this way for you non-sailors, the leeward foil helps provide riding moment. So it is a foil-assisted monohull, the IMOCA 60. Now, these boats have been around for, 10, 15 years? It's a box rule. They have raced famously in the Vendée Globe, which is a single-handed version of the Volvo Ocean Race. They stop a few places, but it's a tough race. Boats go just about as fast as those Volvo VO65s went in the 70s before them. And here you can see an aerial, obviously, of Hugo Boss. And the boat's in Boston. That photo I showed a few minutes ago is from the boat in Boston. Alex Thompson's boat. Alex, a great sailor from the UK, whom I've met. Haven't spent a lot of time, but that's what the idea is for the next fully crewed round-the-world race. And the question now is, will they have the 65s that they've used now for the last two editions of the Volvo Ocean Race? Will the 65s be in the race as well? Will they have two fleets? The predecessor to the Volvo, the Whitbread, had two or even three divisions. I can't remember now. So it's not unprecedented. Okay, we move on. This week's Bravo Zulu is, and thanks to Jean-Pierre Keekins for turning me on to this. I want to recognize the Tour de France de Voile. This has been going on for 40 years. It's the 41st year. It's a series of legs of races down the Atlantic coast of France. Then they transship the boats. They pull them in trailers over to the Med, and then they continue the tour across the Med and end in Nice. The tour is taking a new step forward in 2018. They're shortening it a little bit, fewer stages, fewer stops, so 7 acts, they call them, in 15 days instead of 9 acts in 18 days. They've used other boats, but this trimaran is pretty lively and a lot of fun, and they have fully 30 teams. And it's become quite, it's always been a cool event, but it looks like it's growing up and becoming a very cool event. Look at this, watch this video and see what you think. Nice video. Starts in the race starts, as you would have seen, in 3 days, and it does go down starts in Dunkirk and it comes down the Atlantic coast, and they transship over to the Med and end up in Hyères on what was it, the 22nd? But I mean, this thing it's the 41st edition. It's a big deal. They have a huge amount of television coverage and fan support and so on. 17 days of unrelenting battles on the water, they say. Okay, 4,000 tacks made per team in one edition. Okay, cool. 400 people involved in the organization. Only the French. 968 tubes of sun cream. And on and on. Each boat has an onboard camera. In fact, there are more than one on some of them. And a lot of people watching, including, they say, 213 accredited journalists, and on broadcast TV in 190 countries. I think that accumulated audience total is not 100. I think it's probably 100 million. But it's a lot of hours and a lot of television. And look at that, just that last little line at the bottom. It's the third most renowned sailing event among French people, they say. They've done a study. There was a source for this that I didn't manage to get into this slide. Third most popular event among French people after the Vendée Globe and the Route de Rhum, those two offshore races in, guess what? Excuse me, Amoca 60s. Okay, so why is this race so popular? Well, first of all, France is a sailing crazy country. These boats are cool. It obviously is mirrored or based on the Tour de France of cycling, so very popular to many people over many years. And it seems like a hell of a good idea to me. Of the 30 teams, all are French, except for one Belgium team, which is what I'm told by Jean-Pierre Keekins, who is going to try to get an interview with that Belgium team. He's going down to watch the start of this. And so thank you, Jean-Pierre, for calling us to our attention. I do think it deserves the Bravo Zulu. 40 years of providing a lot of yacht racing, cool yacht racing, for a lot of people. And they've done it in monohulls. I can't even remember the other boats, the classes of boats over there. But the Tour de France de Voile starting in 3 days' time. And I commend it to you. And we'll pay a little attention to it here, even though it's basically a French event, French regatta, one Belgium gentleman and sailing. So let's go back to the okay, Stingray likes FCR TWR. I don't even want to pronounce it again because we don't use coarse language on our website or certainly on this show. But I don't know what else to call it. The fully crewed round-the-world race, the FCR TWR. Mark Wharton, for all the criticisms of Larry's Otusa, he did host an America's Cup defense in San Diego, as well as ACWS's, that is World Series events, in San Francisco, San Diego, Chicago, Newport, and New York City. They were all fantastic events. Some of us would argue with a couple of those, Mark, but they were good events, good for promotion of sailing. And even though the last cup was held in Bermuda, Larry should be still be applauded. He is a patriotic American. He is as patriotic as any of us. Yeah, for sure. And look at what as I reported a week or two ago, look at what he's doing down in Indian Wells with that tennis tournament. It's just amazing how he's built that into kind of the fourth Grand Slam tournament as we think about Wimbledon going on right now over in the UK. Santiago Sampaio, it's a very nicely organized event with great spirit. I was in one of the legs last year, and it really was great. A very French thing, but in the good sense. Yes, yacht racing is good, and when there's an event that brings lots of attention from around the world, lots of participants, all great. And, maybe we should have a tour of the U.S. de voile. Maybe we should have a tour of the U.S. that starts in, tell me where, Seattle, goes down the coast, goes through the Gulf Coast, around Florida, and up and all the way to, tell me where, Bar Harbor, Maine. We had somebody watching in Maine today. Maybe that's an idea. But isn't it interesting that these great events are not organized by World Sailing? Every time World Sailing gets involved in something, it's like the EU or the U.S. federal government in Washington. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. We don't need top-down race management. In fact, it rarely works. The Youth Match Racing Worlds is going on with limited participation this coming week, when you've got the Gov Cup that Balboa Yacht Club has been running for 52 or 3 years. I don't know. I don't get it. Yacht clubs, class associations, people, sailors, the free market, it works, including in the Tour de France de Voile. That wasn't the reason I ran that segment, but I do believe it's cool. Okay, let's wrap this turkey up. Tomorrow we will not be live streaming from St. Francis. We're dark tomorrow. It's the 4th of July, so we're taking the day off, no speaker. But by the way, last week's show, like our show, they all seem to be growing weekly. We had, when I checked this morning, 1.9, almost 2,000 views of our Wednesday yachting luncheon over at St. Francis, which is terrific. It was a great talk. If you haven't seen it, remember there's replays available in perpetuity as long as there's a Facebook and they have servers. It was a fun show. This guy, Jorge Lee, who is from Lima, Peru, talked about the engineering challenges of the bridge and maintaining it and so on, and the bridge being one of the great icons in the world. It was really a terrific show, and we appreciate your support. A lot of the people here follow us over to the Wednesday show, and I'm pleased. I'm starting to get contacts from other yacht clubs, not just Balboa Yacht Club that runs the Governor's Cup, New York Yacht Club that does a good job running the Invitational Cup with a live stream, as we do it at Balboa Yacht Club. But this live streaming is good for the sport, I think, I hope. And it's a video world. The kids, Meg and her cohort, do not read newspapers anymore. They watch videos, whether it's YouTube videos, Facebook Live videos, television, Netflix. And we're pleased to be a small part of this via Sailing Illustrated. Okay. Happy 4th of July, our Independence Day in the U.S. It'll be burgers and fireworks. Some fireworks are this past weekend. Some will be next weekend. A lot of them tomorrow night in and around the country. To all of you, happy 4th of July. Hope to see you same time, same channel next week for our Tuesdays with TFE show. Getting up close to 100. And in the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun.